Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unleashed Human Podcast with your host, Dr. TJ Woodham. Now, all you foodies out there listening may cringe about what I have to say on today's podcast, and you may even think that I'm nutso or that I'm off my rocker, and that is because on today's podcast, I will be covering how fasting can drastically affect your health. For anyone who's been living under a rock and doesn't know what fasting means, fasting is the deliberate abstinence or rejection of food intake for an extended period of time or even a short period of time, from hours to even days, okay? Now you're probably sitting there thinking, TJ, I'm not gonna fast. I enjoy eating way too much. Hey, guess what? I love food more than anybody. But that's besides the fact. And you're probably also thinking, where am I going to get all my energy from without eating? Hey, you know what? I am so glad you asked. Thanks for asking that incredible question. I'll tell you why. Because when your body goes into a prolonged fast, or any fast in general, the energy that you start utilizing comes from these things we call ketones. We use ketones for energy instead of glucose. Now, normally under certain circumstances, the standard American diet or even paleo diet for the most part will actually utilize glucose. And if you don't know what glucose in the simplest terms is sugar. It is sugar that we get from eating breads, fruits, rice, and starchy vegetables. And when your body runs low on glucose, it begins to create ketones instead, which are generated from your fat storages to keep you alive. And these are the same molecules that we created when we were living off the land, when we had extended times of starvation or feast and famine kind of thing. Now, just like in a movie or a book, you can think of ketones as the antagonist to glucose. So when you run low on glucose, ketone production increases. And when you're running low on ketones and you're using more glucose, that means you're probably eating more sugary type things, okay? Now, if you've been on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any kind of social media platforms, and if you have a beating pulse in general, you are no stranger to the ketogenic diet. Now, this ketogenic diet revolves around the idea of using ketones for fuel instead of glucose, which is achieved by eating a high-fat diet or even doing fasting mimicking diets. And to be honest, there are literally so many people trying to sell ketogenic courses online today. It's actually quite disgusting. And it's really making the ketogenic diet look bad when really it's not a diet, it's more of a lifestyle that you can cycle on and off. Now, long story short, utilizing ketones for fuel has been shown to be favorable for health in many different facets. Things like increasing focus, increasing brain processing speed, stopping the growth of certain cancer cells, losing a ton of weight, increasing energy, having healthy cholesterol levels, healthy blood pressure levels, increasing nerve conduction velocity. So in other words, the amount that your brain can send energy down your spinal cord to the rest of your body. And it even helps stave off Alzheimer's risk or any kind of cognitive decline. And it helps fight type 2 diabetes. Now, that is just a small portion of what will be covered on today's podcast. So if you are a total science geek like me, you'll love this episode. Even if you aren't into the science heavy part of learning, I will make this podcast as simple as possible. With that being said, let's dive in. Now, are you ready? Because you're most likely going to hear things that you've never known about fasting and why you should be doing it at least once a week, okay? Now, before we dive into the science of fasting, there's a few types of fasting. There's an intermittent fasting, there's prolonged water fasting, there's juice fast, and there's detox fast. But let me be very clear. I don't do shitty juice fasts and detox fasts. I'm sorry, but that's a bunch of cow dung. Those are not true fasts. Anything that you hear about using juice as a fast or any kind of other concoction as a fast is total bullshit. I'm sorry. The only true fast is drinking water. That is it. Pure H2O, baby. Okay? 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, H2O. Okay? Gatorade, H2O. Gatorade, H2O. Okay? Now, water fasts are the most therapeutic fasts that you can do. They have the most research and data pointing to incredible health benefits, which we jump into in just a minute, okay? The other type of fast is intermittent fasting, aka time-restricted eating, in which you only eat in a specific window of time and then fast for the rest of a 24-hour period. So for example, let's say you wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning. You won't eat breakfast. You'll only have 16 to 32 ounces of water. And your first meal, tangible food, won't be until 12 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, you're allowed to eat within a 6 to 7 hour window, which means you can eat whatever you'd like until 6 or 7 p.m. at night. Then you go to sleep and wake up at 6 a.m. again. The time between 6 p.m. and 12 p.m. is a window of 18 hours where you are not eating anything. Now, this does 3 things. Number 1, get you out of the door in the morning without worrying about breakfast. So your morning is super simple. Just get up, take a shower, get dressed, work out, do your meditation. You don't even have to worry about eating. It's awesome. Number 2, saves you money on food. So you're not always having to worry about buying food, and you only have to worry about the afternoon and dinner, which is actually really nice. Now, number 3, it allows your digestion to relax and recuperate more efficiently. And here's the thing, we always think we need to eat 3 meals a day. Total bullshit, guys. This is not the case. Studies show time and time again, people who eat less live longer because their body isn't constantly stressed into breaking down food all the time. People don't understand. It takes a ton of energy to break down food all the time. And we are eating 3 times a day, all the time, every single day. That is a lot of energy and stress that our body doesn't need. So if you can eat less, it'll actually optimize the way your body works. So just to let you know, guys, fasting is nothing new. It's literally been practiced for thousands of years by many religions and cultures, and for good reasons. Now, I'm going to have a good list here of why fasting is so good, okay? Now, here's the list. The benefits of fasting backed by rock solid science. Now, number 1, fasting promotes blood sugar, okay? It promotes blood sugar control by reducing insulin resistance. So if you're at risk for diabetes or know anyone with blood sugar issues, fasting could totally help them. It's been shown many times in many studies, okay? Now, number 2, it helps with decreasing systemic inflammation. One study showed that even doing intermittent fasting for 1 month showed to significantly decrease inflammatory markers, and has even shown to help with people suffering with multiple sclerosis, which is a pretty nasty neurological disease where the nerves get sclerosed, losing connection to the rest of the body. So there's not as much myelin sheaths going through to the rest of the body. So it's pretty nasty, but they've actually been shown that it's been able to, the condition has been able to bounce back through doing fasting and increasing the amount of healthy fats in your diet, which is really cool. Now, number 3, fasting enhances heart health, blood pressure, triglycerides, and cholesterol levels. So you're having issues with anything in your blood, whether that's cholesterol or having hypertension of any sort, fasting can totally help. And I actually noticed it when I measured my own blood pressure after starting to do intermittent fasting and even doing fasts often. So I'm decently healthy, but at times when I was younger, I remember I was pretty stressed and my blood pressure would be like 145 over like 80 something. And that's pretty high for, man, at the time I was like 24, 25. So when I started implementing this stuff, I noticed a big drop in my blood pressure, and I didn't feel as stressed all the time, which is awesome. So number 4, fasting boosts brain function and prevents neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Number 5, aids in weight loss and boosts metabolism. Listen, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, doing an intermittent fasting diet or even doing fasting once a week or a month has been shown to help people lose weight significantly. I remember working with a woman who was doing intermittent fasting for about, not even barely 3 weeks, and she lost 30 pounds. So I'm telling you right now, and she even told me that she tried everything for weight loss. This was a 52-year-old woman. She told me everything was done in her journey to lose weight, and nothing helped. And the only thing that helped was doing intermittent fasting. So I tell you what, guys, it's a pretty big deal if you're trying to lose weight. Now, number 6, with fasting, it increases growth hormone and stem cell production, which is massive for muscle growth and strength. And a study found that men who fasted for 2 days led to a 5-fold increase in human growth hormone. So any guy out there who's trying to put on mass, if you do a fast, 2 to 3 day fast, I mean, your stem cells ramp up like no other. So you could totally put on mass much quicker if you do, any kind of intermittent fasting or a prolonged fast at least once a month. So totally check that out and see if that helps for you. Number 7, fasting has been shown to extend longevity and delays aging. One study showed that rats that fasted every other day experienced a delay rate of aging and lived 83% longer than rats that didn't fast. That's pretty badass, okay? And they've done that with multiple studies. That was just one of them. Number 8, fasting may aid in certain cancer prevention and metastasis, meaning that the cancer won't spread as much. And it's also, like doing any kind of fasting also increases the effectiveness of chemotherapy. So if you guys didn't know, most cancer feeds on sugar. And if there isn't much sugar to go around, the cancer cells cannot proliferate, aka they cannot spread. So if you're using ketones for energy, most cancers won't be able to spread as easily because they can't feed off sugar. It's not true with all cancers. This has been a myth for a little while now. A misconception. People think that if you do a ketogenic diet, it's going to cure every cancer. Totally not true. So do not think that's the case. Ketogenic diet and fasting only works for certain cancers. So you need to figure out which cancer, if you do have, you need to figure out if that is feasible with fasting or a high-fat diet. And always check with your healthcare provider before doing such things, okay? Now, number 9, when you fast, your digestion, your gut microbiome changes drastically. And potential pathological bacterial strains that relied upon sugars and foods to keep them alive will die and make room for the good bacterial strains to take back over. Now, this extended period of time also gives you your digestion a rest from all of the cramming of food down your gullet all the time. So it's a really, really big deal when it comes to resetting your gut, especially if you have gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, if you have any issues with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, anything where your GI tract, whether that's your stomach, whether that's your intestines, colon, or large intestines, are being affected, totally do a fast. You will see incredible changes. I'm telling you right now, okay? Now, I don't know about you, but this is certainly enough evidence that fasting is totally worth it. Even if you would do a 24-hour fast once a week, I mean, come on, that's not even hard. I mean, it may be hard initially because you're so used to eating so much, but try it. I mean, it's really, really awesome, okay? Now, here's the reality. Intermittent fasting has great benefit And most of the benefit comes from shedding belly fat and then stabilizing that weight. Okay? I've noticed that when I do intermittent fasting, I stay at the same weight. Like I just stabilize. Like for me, the optimal weight for me is like anywhere from 165 to 170 based on my height. Okay? So I stay in that weight. And whenever you find that weight based off your height, I mean, you'll stay that way. Even women, it's the same way. I've seen it time and time again. But on the other hand, true prolonged water fasts of 24 to 72 hours show the most health benefits by far. Now, there's this sexy word everyone in the fasting community loves throwing around, and it's called autophagy. Now, autophagy, which literally translates into self-eating, okay, is the idea that your body is recycling old damaged molecules and broken down particles of food or tissues or cells. Now, in the realm of fasting, it's your body's way of cleaning up old tissues, sludge, proteins that need to be taken out to the dumpster and taken away by the garbage truck. In other words, it's a cellular cleansing process that breaks down the old and damaged molecules that can help kickstart new cellular growth and stem cell formation. And attaining autophagy is when the magic really starts to happen in fasting. Now, this can be attained through 12 to 16 hour fasts, but levels of true autophagy really starts to kick in between 24 to 96 hour fasts, water fasts. Now, I have to mention, you should consider how healthy or unhealthy you are before starting a fast of any kind. If you have an autoimmune disease or you're taking medications that need food to take with the medication, you must talk to your doctor first. If you decide to dive into fasting, please take your time and don't rush it. If you intend on doing a water fast past 5 days, make sure that your healthcare provider or someone else is looking after you. Fasting is not all rainbows and sunshine, okay? There are side effects such as lethargy, weakness, heart palpitations, and possibly nervousness / anxiousness around day 4, day 5. Listen, everybody responds differently, just like everyone is an individual, but most side effects only last a short time regardless. Most of them, it's like almost every time fasting is beneficial. You may feel some side effects, but I mean, you're totally good. Now, just to give you perspective, for those who think you're gonna die if you don't eat 3 meals a day, if a human being goes 10 to 12 days without sleep, they are at risk for suffering permanent psychosis and or insanity and even death. People can go a few months without eating food before they run the risk of death or complication. They've done studies in rats that had died after 12 to 15 days without sleep, okay? So sleep deprivation kills people way before people go starving, okay? I know people that go like 60 days without eating, and obviously making sure they're getting certain minerals and vitamins in. But realize that from that perspective, you can die with lack of sleep before you die from lack of food, okay? In fact, this proves my point. In 1966, listen again, in 1966, there was a young man of 26 years old named Angus Barbary, okay? And I might have, torched that last name, but Angus Barbary, I think it might be, who weighed 456 pounds, who underwent a 382 days of water fasting and lived to tell the tale. I'm going to say that again. This man weighed 456 pounds, and he went under a 382-day fast, and it was published in a case report in 1973. He was under direct supervision of doctors, and they kept him alive with many vitamins and minerals. He ended up going from 456 pounds to 180 pounds, totally natural. And the most incredible part of this study is that Angus did not have any stretch marks after losing all of the weight because his body naturally aided in the help of resorption of fatty tissues and collagen fibers. And it's so fascinating to me. I don't know about you, but I think that's the coolest thing ever. And if you don't think this stuff is cool, I don't think I can get you to think anything is cool, because that is just mind-blowing. All right? Another story involves my greatest mentor, Dr. Paul Goldberg. Many years ago, Dr. Goldberg worked at a retreat center on the beach in the state of Florida. He saw many sick people come to the retreat for things like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel disease, psychosocial diseases, depression, heavy metal toxicity, psoriasis, eczema, you name it, he saw it. But it was one case that stuck out to him the most. And it was, I remember I was sitting in class when he was telling us a story, and I remember him telling us there was this young woman who came to the retreat, and this girl was going to embark on a 25-day water fast under direct supervision, obviously. And come to find, this girl completed the 25-day water fast and saw phenomenal changes in all of her health issues. But what shocked Dr. Goldberg more than anything was her eye color. When this woman showed up to the retreat, she had dark brown eyes. Okay, I'm going to say that again. When this woman first showed up to the retreat, she had dark brown eyes. But after her fast, her eyes were shining a bright bluish emerald green color. This woman had been so toxic that her eye color changed back to her normal state. I remember hearing this story and I was blown away. And that just goes to show how powerful fasting is for your health. Now, in a nutshell, restricting the amount you eat has shown more benefit than disadvantage. As we mentioned earlier, there are different ways of fasting. One being a straight up water fast for 24 to 72 hours if you so choose, and one being intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, where you only eat within a certain window. Now, I'm going to lay this out for you right now in a couple of routes that you can take, okay? And I'm going to have this either in the show notes, or I'm going to have this on a separate page for you guys to go to. First, try the 5-to-2 ratio method of fasting. The 5-to-2 ratio method of fasting is more of a lifestyle form of fasting. You can eat normally on 5 days of the week, but making sure you're still eating clean. And for the other 2 days of the week, you only eat 500 to 600 calories. Hence the name 5-to-2 ratio fasting. You can choose any 2 days of the week to restrict caloric intake. For example, you eat normally on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, but restrict caloric intake on Tuesday and Friday. And that is all there is to the 5-to-2 ratio method of fasting. Super simple, super easy. Just restrict your eating to 500 to 600 calories for 2 days out of the week, okay? That was number one. The second way of implementing fasting is for Monday through Friday, you only eat 2 meals, okay? So each day, Monday through Friday, you're only eating 2 meals in the day. So you eat 1 meal at lunch around 12 or 1 o'clock, and then 1 meal at dinner at 6 or 7 p.m., okay? Then on Saturday and Sunday, you can have 3 meals of making sure you're eating clean and not stuffing your face with complete garbage, all right? So super easy, just 5 days out of the week, you're eating 2 meals, and then 2 days out of the week, you're still eating 3 meals, okay? Now, the third way you can implement fasting is to do a 24-hour water fast at least once per week, and then all the other days of the week you can eat as normal, but again, eating clean, not shitty, all right? Now, the last way of fasting can be achieved by doing a 3 to 5 day water fast at the beginning of each month. This type of fasting typically yields great benefits. During this fast, you can experience grogginess, lack of energy, headaches, and heart fluttering, which have been experienced by many people. And it is with great emphasis that you should not participate in such a fast unless you are cleared and healthy enough to do so. I say this because although I am a doctor myself, you must message me or consult with your local provider in order to supervise or provide recommendations during your fast. Because the reality is, many people can do these fasts without issues, but those with serious conditions like cancer, autoimmune diseases, and conditions requiring multiple medications must advise a doctor face-to-face before proceeding. The reality is, years ago, we were able to do prolonged fasts without issue and worry. But now, humans, we live in such a toxic world full of medications, environmental toxins, emotional stress, chemical stress, poor food choices, and disease that we simply cannot tell someone to fast unless they are truly capable of doing such catabolic reconstruction to the body. The steps to fasting that I mentioned above are just like anything else. Please ease your way into it. Do not rush into caloric restriction way too fast. It will shock your body. Instead, start implementing small wins each day before going all in. For example, Monday, skip breakfast and only eat lunch and dinner. Then on Tuesday, eat normal, 3 meals. Then on Wednesday, skip breakfast and only eat lunch and dinner. Then Thursday, eat normal, 3 meals. Then Friday, skip breakfast, only eat lunch. Then Saturday, 3 meals. Then Sunday, skip breakfast and only eat lunch and dinner. When the next week rolls around, do 2 days in a row of intermittent fasting until you get comfortable doing it more often. Now, I hope this episode provided you with some cool knowledge and action steps to crush fasting and have a better understanding of how to do it. The world of fasting is seriously evolving all the time, and new studies come out each day on the incredible benefits. Now, although fasting's been around forever, the research is constantly coming out, and fasting's never going to go away because it's been practiced by so many different religions and cultures that it's still what it is since the dawn of time, okay? Now, I could have gone really, really nerdy and super deep on the research, but I decided I would keep it quick and to the point for now. And what I mean by that is you should probably stay tuned for subsequent podcasts because I'm sure I'll be back talking about fasting very soon. And I will have all the show notes below, and we'll be posting this at theunleashedhuman.com/fasting, where you can get a free copy of a complete guide for fasting. Again, you can get your complete guide free for fasting at theunleashedhuman.com/fasting to get your free fasting guide. You can also follow me on Instagram at theunleashedhuman, and you can message me at TJ Woodham on Facebook